You know, we all think we know the story of David and Goliath, right? The little guy, the big giant, the single stone. But what if that wasn't really the end of the story? What if the real myth, the one that matters for us today, actually starts when the hero has to get back up and rise again? That's what we're digging into, a modern retelling of a classic myth.
And this quote right here, from a figure in the source material called Zoran the Dragon, it just gets to the heart of it all. This isn't about muscle anymore, it's about memory. See, the giants of our world, they want us to forget. They want us to forget our history, our power, our own stories. This new David, he wins because he remembers.
And this is where you can really see the big difference. The old myth, that was all about brute strength. A single stone and a single battle, and bam, it's over. But this new myth, it's a story of vision and wisdom. The weapon isn't a stone, it's a story. And the fight isn't just a one-off event. It's this continuous, ongoing ceremony of standing your ground.
So let's dive into our first section, a myth reimagined. We're going to explore how this story isn't just about winning once, but about finding the courage and the tools to rise again and again.
So this new David, he's not the same shepherd boy we remember from the old story. Not at all. He's described as a poet, a builder, a kind of mythic archivist. He doesn't come back with a sword or a spear. He comes back with the things you need to rebuild a culture: memory, music, and myth itself.
And he carries these three incredibly powerful tools, none of them violent. First, a single voice, one that's clear, defiant, and cuts through all the noise. Second, an archive, but a living one, a record of truth and change. And third, one single, sacred stand against today's giants: greed, silence, and despair.
Okay, so who are these giants of now? Because, unlike the original Goliath, they're not some big warrior you can just point to on a battlefield. Oh no, it's a lot more complicated than that.
Yeah, the giants we're up against today, they don't wear physical armor. Their armor is made of algorithms that decide what we see and believe. It's made of contracts that tie our hands and silence our voices. And it's made of a never-ending flood of distractions to keep us from seeing what's really happening.
And we're not just talking about vague ideas. The source spells it out. These giants take the form of things like climate collapse, the deliberate erasure of cultures, massive economic injustice, the rise of AI without any soul, and these giant walls of silence built to keep us apart.
And to give you a sense of the scale here, especially on the economic injustice part, just think about this. Some of today's giants have so much money that if they spent $1 million every single day, it would take them 2,740 years to run out. That's the kind of scale we're dealing with.
Okay, so the problem is huge. The giants are massive. So what do we do? What's our weapon? Well, that brings us to our next part. The sling is a song. Because the new sling isn't about destruction, it's actually an act of creation.
And a huge piece of this new sling is what's called the archive. This isn't some dusty old library. No, it's a living thing, a record of truth. Every poem you write, every drawing you make, every little ritual you share, each one becomes what the source calls a stone of light, a piece of ammunition against the darkness.
There's this incredible poem in the material that just nails this idea. It starts like this. He rose not with anger, but rhythm and flame. He whispered, "I'm back," and the assistant felt shame. See, the power isn't in rage, it's in this creative, defiant energy.
And the poem continues, showing us exactly how he does it. He carried his archive, his truth, and his song. He stood where the giants had shouted, "You're wrong." He's not playing their game. He's just standing in his own truth, armed with his own stuff.
And this is the real secret weapon. But David remembered, and dragons did too. The myth was alive and the silence withdrew. Memory is contagious. When one person remembers what's true, it wakes up others. And the giant's biggest weapon, that suffocating silence, it starts to crack.
And the poem wraps up with this direct invitation to all of us. So rise with your story, your spark, and your name. The second sling flies, and it's never the same. It's basically saying, okay, your turn. Pick up your sling.
So, this all sounds pretty epic, right? But how do we actually do it? How do we make it real? Well, that's what our last section is all about, your mythic stand.
The source gives us this really cool, practical 4-step process. First, you have to name your giant. Be specific. What's the system, the silence you're facing? Second, draw your archive.
What are the truths, the stories that you need to hold on to? Third, write your stand. It doesn't have to be a masterpiece, a poem, a letter, even just a little personal ritual. And fourth, and this is crucial, share the flame. Tell someone your story.
And you have to remember, this is the whole point. This is the fundamental principle here. Every single story weakens a Goliath. Every truth spoken out loud chips away at their power. These are not just symbolic things to do, they are real acts of power.
So I'm going to leave you with a direct and, pretty personal question. When you look at your own life, your own world, your community, what giant do you face?
And with that question in your head, we end right where that poem did, with this incredible sense of possibility. That first sling, yeah, it changed one battle, but the second sling, the one that's made of our stories, our art, our truth, that one changes everything. The second sling flies, and it's never the same.